Hey everybody, and welcome to the latest recipe. Today we are making Valentine's Day donuts. I don't think there's a better present you can give someone on Valentine's Day than waking up to fresh donuts. And with these, they're chocolate and a raspberry glaze to give a little pinkish hue to them. And I'm going to show you how to make them right now. And also, if you have any questions about, your fryer oil temperature on your donuts, or more likely about, what the Colorado real estate market looks like, you can always get a hold of me. I'm going to put a link in the description because remember, I'm never too busy for your real estate referrals. With that, let's get started on our Valentine's Day donuts.
The night before, in your stand mixer, you want to start making your dough. I started with some softened butter, and I used the paddle attachment all the way through. I will now recommend start with your whisk attachment for these first 3 steps, then move on to your paddle attachment. You're going to want to whisk that for 1 minute, and then add in your sugar and whisk that for another minute, and then you're going to add in your egg yolks and whisk that on high for about 2 to 3 minutes. You're going to want to do this to incorporate some air into the dough. And I will say at this point, I'm going to put in the description of every video and social media post the amounts and the ingredients in this recipe. Now add in your cocoa powder and your spices and your salt. I will say if I were to change anything, I would probably do more cocoa powder, but that's because I like things very chocolatey. This recipe is probably fine for most people. And then add in half of your flour and half of your sour cream, and slowly mix those in as you can see here. Then do the other half of the flour, get that mixed in before adding the other half of the sour cream. And try not to go too fast or too far on this, just until they're mixed in. You don't want it to be tough. Once your dough is all mixed together, turn it out onto a piece of plastic wrap and shape it into a circular shape so it's easier to roll out later, and put it in the fridge for 1 hour. Once your dough is properly chilled, put it onto a generously floured work surface. This dough likes to stick to everything, so make sure you have plenty of flour on top and on your rolling pin, and then roll that out to about 1/2 of an inch. I recommend doing this in a circular shape because we're going to be cutting out circles. Give it a double tap and start cutting your pieces. If you don't have a donut cutter or even a biscuit cutter, you can just use a glass like I did, and it works just fine for the outside. And for the inside, find a smaller circle to cut out the middle. For me, I use the wide end of a piping bag attachment that you would use for frosting or whipped cream, and it worked great. And of course, save those nicely shaped circles from the middle, and you can make donut holes out of them. I took my extra dough and re-rolled it out again, so that way I could do some heart-shaped ones because it's Valentine's Day. Why would I want to do some heart-shaped ones? And any extra pieces, you might as well just put them up into little balls and save them to be fried, because believe me, you're not going to want to waste any of the dough. Take the shapes you have and put them in the fridge overnight. The next morning, wake up, go to the bathroom, wash your hands, brush your teeth, and start heating up your oil. And please, do it in that order. I used 3 cups of canola oil for this in my Dutch oven, and I put it on medium to medium-high heat to get it up to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. As that's getting up to temperature, you're going to want to start on your glaze. I did a raspberry glaze for mine, so I took some raspberry jam and mixed that in thoroughly with a whisk with my whole milk before pouring it over some confectioner's sugar. Mine did come out a little bit thick at first though. You can see here as I'm whisking it together, I have to tap it off with a whisk instead of it just running off. That is what you want. You want it to run off the whisk. So it's a pretty easy fix though. All you have to do is add a little bit of milk at a time, whisk it together until it's running off your whisk. And I'm realizing this step is a lot of video to talk over. So I want to talk a little bit about cargo shorts. When did they go away? Specifically, was it like 10, 15 years ago? Because for me, I just threw away mine like a year ago. And if I bring them back now, am I going to be ahead of the curve? Because everything comes back, right? Oh, there, that's how it should look. Now let's get our frying and glazing station set up. This is the general setup you want. You want your pot of hot oil, you want a baking dish with a rack on top, so that way you can catch all the grease and the extra glaze, and then you want a bowl of glaze close by. Carefully, one by one, drop in your donuts. I might have done a couple a little too fast and splashed myself. It doesn't feel great. And you want to do those for about 2 minutes each side, all the while making sure your oil stays at about 350 degrees. After 2 minutes, you're going to flip those over. And I will say now too, I think a mistake I did make that kept my oil maybe a little bit low was I put too many at a time. 4 is too many for this size pot. I think 2 would have been perfect. Then I wouldn't have been fighting the oil temperature too much, and I wouldn't have had to turn on my heat so much. After those cool down for about a minute and you can handle them with your fingers, you're going to want to put them in your glaze. And I just flip mine over with a fork here and let them dry on the rack and drip off all that glaze. Put some heart sprinkles on your heart-shaped donuts, because why not? Thanks for watching, everybody, and have a great Valentine's Day.